Welcome to World War II Indiana Landmarks, Episode 13, the World War II Memorial in Indianapolis. I'm your host, Ron May, author of the book, World War II Indiana Landmarks. The World War II Memorial is in downtown Indianapolis. It is located on the northeast edge of the American Legion Mall grassy area and stands along Pennsylvania Avenue, just south of the American Legion headquarters building. You can access the memorial by sidewalks, either from the American Legion Mall on the back side of the memorial or by the sidewalk that runs in front of the memorial along Pennsylvania Avenue. The World War II Memorial Project began on Veterans Day 1997 and cost $425,000 to build. Just 6 months after the project began, the memorial was dedicated on May 22, 1998. Retired Senator Bob Dole, the national face of World War II veterans at that time, served as guest speaker. Indiana Governor Frank O'Bannon also made some remarks. Popular television journalist Tom Brokaw, who published his book The Greatest Generation that same year, was also on hand for the dedication. A crowd of 1,000 people gathered on that rainy day to dedicate the memorial. Designed by Fort Wayne architect Patrick Bruner, the memorial consists of a half-cylinder structure constructed of polished granite and limestone trim. The convex side of the memorial faces east toward Pennsylvania Avenue. It includes a narrative of U.S. involvement in the war on each side of the structure. At the top of the memorial, inside the engraved borders of the state of Indiana, are the number of Hoosiers who served in the war, 395,982, as well as those injured, over 17,000, and those lost in the war, almost 12,000. The convex side also identifies the 9 Medal of Honor recipients from the state of Indiana. At the bottom of the middle granite panel are the 7 Hoosier military units that received distinguished recognition for their war service. And in the middle of those unit squares is a world map showing the Allied and Axis countries, along with the Axis conquests by December 1941. On the concave side of the memorial, facing west toward the plaza, are excerpts from letters home written by Hoosier veterans who fought in World War II. A cylindrical column stands in front of the half-circle monument. The column lists, in order of sequence, the campaigns and major operations of the war and their respective dates. Being part of the memorial are the engraved letters from men in service overseas. There is also an excerpt from President Roosevelt's December 8, 1941 address to Congress, a quote from President Truman lauding the spirit of liberty on September 1, 1945, following the surrender of Japan, a portion of Ernie Pyle's A Last Word column from August 1944, and a letter by a woman in Indianapolis sharing her thoughts following the announcement of the D-Day invasion in France. One of those letters, engraved on the memorial, is by Vernon C. Buchanan of Indianapolis, who wrote to his parents in late 1944. It was a letter he hoped would not be mailed from the Philippines, where he was serving in the Army Air Forces. He wrote, "Dear Mom and Dad, this is a letter that I hope need not be delivered, for that would mean that I am considered missing or killed in action. Please don't think that you have lost everything in losing your son. Remember that I volunteered for this and I knew what it might lead to. I have spent some of my happiest moments in the Army Air Forces. I feel I have done something to be proud of, something perhaps that will aid America to remain the land of the free, the home of the brave. If my death helps end this war 1 minute sooner, I consider it worthwhile. Eternally your son, Vernon." Tragically, The letter was mailed to his parents in early 1945, notifying them of their son's death on January 9, 1945. A second lieutenant, he was a B-25 bomber serving in the Pacific with the 500th Bomb Squadron, 345th Bomb Group. He went missing on January 9th following a mission and was never found. William Rudy's letter to his parents is inscribed on the wall as well. He was luckier than Buchanan. He survived the war, but he came home missing part of his left leg. Rudy, also from Indianapolis, was born in 1922 and graduated from Shortridge High School. He enlisted in the Army Air Force cadet training and reported for duty in early 1943. Rudy became a navigator on a B-24 Liberator and deployed to Italy in July 1944. His plane was shot down by flak over Yugoslavia on August 17, while his crew was returning from a mission to bomb the oil fields in Ploiești, Romania. His crew managed to bail out of the bomber as it was going down. Upon reaching the ground, Rudy was captured by some Bulgarian soldiers, one of whom shot him in the left leg just below his calf. A few weeks later, his infected lower leg was amputated in a Yugoslavian hospital. He was imprisoned at Stalag 18A, a German POW camp in southern Austria, where he remained until his liberation by the British on May 9, 1945. Having endured an amputation and 9 months of captivity, he was finally sent home. It was in February 1945, 6 months into his captivity, that Rudy sent a letter to his folks back home in Indianapolis, informing them of his condition and expressing his gratitude for being alive. His words are found on the memorial wall. Dear folks, I am very comfortable situated in a prison camp in Germany and very thankful to be alive. You may as well know that my left foot and part of my leg have been amputated. The doctors don't have much hope of saving my knee, which was left stiff as a result of the operation. All amputation cases are eligible for automatic repatriation, so I think the doctors are going to delay in a second amputation until the physicians in America have a chance to look at it. But don't get too impatient about this repatriation, because it may take 6 months to a year. Losing my leg seemed pretty awful to me at first, but I have grown used to it now and realize how lucky I am not to be dead. Love, Bill. Perhaps the most moving of the excerpts engraved on the wall isn't a letter, but a poem entitled Elegy, written by James McGregor of Munster, Indiana. It appears on the bottom center panel of the interior memorial wall. McGregor joined the Army in 1942. He was serving as a lieutenant on the Pacific island of Biak, northwest of New Guinea, in 1944, when he penned the poem he titled Elegy. Nobody knew anything about the poem until his widow Charlotte came across it after his death in 1995, some 41 years after he wrote it. Having read about the plans to build a World War II memorial in Indianapolis, she sent a copy of the poem to the memorial committee, and they decided to include his poem on the monument. The poem is a treasure. His stirring words, which I'll read to you now, can be read by everyone who visits the memorial. There's a bit of Indiana in the sighing of the breeze. There's a hint of Indiana in the rustling of the trees, and the jungle's myriad whisperings are sibilantly clear. They are having Injun summer just 10,000 miles from here. There's a part of Indiana in the blazing tropic moon. There's a trace of Indiana in the shimmering lagoon, and a message in the tramping of a sentry very near. Oh, the frost is on the pumpkin, just 10,000 miles from here. There's a share of Indiana in the crosses by the palms. There's a touch of Indiana in the South Pacific calms. and the murmur of the breakers brings me desolating cheer. Oh, the corn is heavy on the stalk, just 10,000 miles from here. There's a piece of Indiana where the sand is stained with red. There's a lot of Indiana where the Hoosier lays his head. And I seem to hear him saying, as I stand beside his bier, "Let me sleep once more beneath the sky, 10,000 miles from here." Thanks to McGregor's poem on the memorial, those who never returned to the Indiana soil and the people they loved and longed for are still linked to their home state in the hearts and minds of visitors who stop to read and remember those who served. Learn more about the World War II Memorial in Indianapolis and the service stories of those whose letters appear on the memorial in my new book, World War II Indiana Landmarks, available for purchase on my website or wherever books are sold. And while on my website, check out my trilogy of Indiana World War II veteran service stories. Thanks for tuning in to this episode.